Toastmasters and honored guest. Thank you. I'm going to temporarily change the word of the day. Does anybody know what a kibbutz is?
Yes.
The word of the day is now kibbutz, which literally means a gathering or something, or whatever. I always pictured a kibbutz as being strictly agricultural, but I found that that's not necessarily so. A kibbutz can have any number of businesses. For example, during my stay, I actually stayed at a kibbutz. I thought I was going to do a bed and breakfast type of thing, but resort hotel in addition to agricultural. This was not the kibbutz that I stayed in. Picture yourself now, go a little closer. In 1945, Israel was still a part of Palestine, which at that time was being controlled by the British. A militant group called Haganah knew that as soon as the British left, they were going to give all control over to the Arabs, and there was going to be a bitter battle between Israel and the Arabs. They felt a very special need that they had to stockpile ammunition. Where were they going to get ammunition? They had to make it themselves, and they had to do it in secret. Now, you've heard about working on a kibbutz. Have you ever considered working under a kibbutz? This particular kibbutz had several businesses. It had an industrial laundromat. It had an industrial bakery. It had a dairy farm. It had a bullet factory. Imagine people working on top of the kibbutz in those aforementioned jobs and not having a clue as to what was going on underneath them. Our story, our journey begins in the laundromat. Here, the curator of the Ayalon Institute Museum tells us about how the factory was hidden from the British soldiers and even the workers above. I believe this one woman behind her, that picture behind her, she knew what was going on. Somebody had to.
Yeah.
What factory? This is actually a laundry. I love this photo so much. I love the way that's lined up. These are actual photographic cutouts of actual kibbutz workers. Imagine, one of their biggest customers was actually the British Army. She's washing uniforms in this machine. This appears to be an average loud, clanking industrial washing machine, which it actually was, but it is doing something else. What do you think it's doing, besides making a lot of noise and covering up a lot of noise?
Yeah.
It's concealing the employee entrance to the hidden factory. Before anybody else on the kibbutz would show up to work, the workers in the factory were there. And they had to climb down one by one into the factory. Somebody working above would then seal it down. And that person would wait until everybody else was gone before they would let them out for lunch break and time to go. So they were the first to come, first to go. We're going to make our way across to the other side of the kibbutz. You think that was the only entrance? How are you going to get the equipment in? What are you going to do? You're going to need a bakery, aren't you? It's like an average, ordinary bakery. Looks like he's making those rolls, those buns for Subway. He's actually making for the local market, the local hospital, the local town. But what about that oven over there? What's it doing? Well, it's also serving as a ventilation system. The chimney from that oven not only expelled all the fumes from the oven, it acted as a ventilation system expelling the fumes from the kibbutz. It's mounted on tracks. It weighs about 10 tons, so no British soldier is going to even try to move that thing. But if you did, it would reveal a hidden shaft big enough to lower equipment and supplies to the factory workers, and that is how we enter the factory. Inside, you see these machines, well, they're replicas. Once we won the battle, they were removed and relocated elsewhere, and not until the museum opened up. Those are exact replicas of the machines that they use, and they are working machines used to make bullet casings. Very first step. Now, in those days, they used copper sheets to make the bullet cases. But that was kind of hard to come by, wasn't it? Especially if you were the Israeli Haganah. Sure, they filled out the appropriate import certifications, but when the authorities asked them, why do you need so many copper sheets? Why do you possibly need this? Oh, we're making lipstick cases. Women love shiny things, that's what we're doing. Lipstick cases, not bullets, that would be illegal. Not only did the authorities buy the lie, they bought the lipstick cases. The Hebrew word for giraffe is giraffe, so we could use that. What is a giraffe in this case? A giraffe, we know, is an animal with a long neck that can stick its neck out and see long distances. And that was somebody upstairs on the outside keeping an eye out for them. Flip the switch, stop working. The British are coming, the British are coming. Be quiet, stop the machines. You're making bullets, you're going to want to test them. Imagine now, this is a factory with those machines going all the time. Rum, the rum, the rum, making all this loud noise. Plus, there's a shooting range. Still, nobody was the wiser. Because you have that loud, clanking laundry machine doing the laundry for the British Army. You have the big stove that nobody was going to possibly move. You need the shooting range. They made only one size of bullets, 9mm, for the Sten submachine gun. The only gun, the only weapon that was available to the Haganah at that time. This is the shooting range inside the factory, inside the underground factory. They were tested out, take a batch at random, test it out. I wish I could have gotten in to that display case and actually been able to hold it, but that is the Sten submachine gun for which these bullets were made. You're probably asking yourself, you're thinking, if I'm working underground all day long, and I had co-workers working out in the sun all day long, don't you think somebody is going to notice the difference? They're getting burned, we're pale. What do? You install in a little tiny room an ultraviolet light so that during your break, you could work on your Saint-Tropez tan. This may have well been the birthplace of the modern tanning salon. Made, designed out of a necessity for the fight for independence and survival. The tanning salon. I love this part. Filling the bullet case. That looks like one of those floss threaders that you use, but actually, this little tube was used to measure and distribute the right amount of gunpowder. As we know, in the bullet making industry, there is no margin of error. You have to have the exact amount, and that was very vital. Any mistake could be dangerous. But, in my opinion, not quite as dangerous as the next step, actually filling the bullet case. I'm sure that if I was working there, I would have been assigned that job. You see what the mannequin is doing, she's actually filling the case and then sealing it. One false move there could be quite dangerous. Fortunately, that was never a problem. One problem now, the bullets were then placed, packed in unmarked boxes. But how do you smuggle them out without being noticed? They're in unmarked boxes, but what are you going to do? How are you going to get them out of the factory? Anybody have a suggestion? I told you at the beginning of the slide presentation that they also had a dairy farm. What are you going to do? Do you think you might stuff them into milk cans? Do you think that would work? You're saying
Possibly.
yes? Wrong! Of course not. A British soldier worth his weight in salt could pick that up, shake it up, and notice that something was definitely not kosher. How can you get him out? A milk truck. Now, that's another story. Notice from this illustration, that's your average milk truck. This is a dairy farm. It'll work. It's just milk, and in part of that it was, but they had a false bottom. Smuggle it out. This, ladies and gentlemen, fellow Toastmasters, is how you form a team, have a common goal, get together, and achieve independence. Go down.